All right, gang, let's make a quick HyperDoc from scratch. So here is the example, okay? And this is exactly what we're gonna do. And then we get down to this sort of green part down here, and of course, everything in this green area is optional, okay? So anything kind of below this hand, you don't have to add. But at some point in a HyperDoc, you might find that you wanna add these different headings to take your students deeper or further into whatever they're checking out via the HyperDoc that you created for them. All right, so first step is you need to be in your Google Drive. Doesn't matter where. If you've got a folder for the class, great. If you don't, just pop it in anywhere you can, and you can organize it later, okay? All right, so we're going to go new, and we're going to choose a Google Doc. All right, and we'll create and share that. You may or may not get that message. If you do, just say, yeah, go ahead and share it. And if you don't get it, that's okay as well. All right, so again, remember, we are aiming for this, and this is what we have so far, okay? So up here, I'll just double click up here. This is in a header. So I'm just gonna copy this. You can copy it as well if you want. I'll paste it in there. I'll make this bigger just temporarily on the screen so that you can see what it says. And you can maybe pause the video and then either type it in or go to my example and copy and paste it. Okay? All right. So I'll just make that something like that. I just put it there in the header so that it shows up on every page, right? And the workflow, this workflow is like the instructions or what kids got to do, the steps to complete this HyperDoc. Because just like the HyperDocs that I give you, what will happen is students will complete them, right? So they will eventually go to File, make a copy, and they'll have their own version of the HyperDoc, right? So the workflow just tells them what to do. And if we haven't talked about this yet, but we're going to talk about flipped classrooms. Often when we do these HyperDocs, just like you're doing yourself, these are done at home without the teacher there, okay? So then we need to make sure that we have explicit instructions for not only the student, but if the student goes, Mom, Dad, whoever, adult, my personal adult, I don't know what to do, there are instructions up here. Now, this is just a sample one. For any HyperDoc that you might make, you might need to, change this up a bit for your purposes. So lesson title, I use that as just because this is a template, right? I use this as just a placeholder for when I'm going to type in the title, let's say like flipped classrooms, right? Okay. So, and if you don't, just a sec here. If you don't like the way this is set up, I don't like it so far down from the edge of the page. I change my options and choose header format. And then I'm just going to make that 0.25. And actually, I'm going to make that 0.25. And I can do that. I can really kind of mess around with the margins because typically these are not ever printed out. I can't think of a time I've ever printed one out. So we don't have to worry about margins and printers and stuff like that because this is only going to be an electronic document. Okay? All right. So to me, that looks a little bit better. Okay? Now, sometimes I put a line in here and sometimes I don't. I want this case because we're going to have a line from the table. So to create this first table, we have to just think about columns and rows. So columns go top to bottom and rows go left to right or right to left. Okay, so here we've got 3 columns and 2 rows, okay, on the first one. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the insert menu and go table. And remember, it's 3 across and 2 down. Okay, so then we get this kind of idea. Now, before we get any further, I should give this a name, and I'm going to call it HyperDoc template. I'm just going to call it Spring 22. You can do whatever you want as far as the title, as long as it's got HyperDoc and template in the title of the words. I'm good. Okay, so if we go back to our example, what you can see is that this column, these 2 cells or these 2 boxes, we can move those over a little bit. Because what we're going to do only is end up putting a picture in there, okay? And then once it's moved over, just by using that vertical line here, we're going to click and hold and highlight both of those cells, and then we're going to right-click, and we're going to say merge cells. So that makes 2 cells into 1. So that when I come to my picture, I'm just going to paste it. Okay, like so. And let me just make that a little bit bigger so you can see it a little better. Okay. All right, then as far as this goes, you can see that these 2 are up here. So I'm just going to steal this title. Okay, and I'm going to paste it up here. And then over here in this last column, what I need is a time to complete. Now, this little icon, there's a couple ways to get it. I use a site called Emoji Copy. Okay, and so if I click Emoji Copy, darn it, I shouldn't have done it quite that way. It gives you access to all these emojis. Okay, and then you can use any emoji you want. If we go back to my example, 1 sec, there we go. You can see I used a little clock. So if we were going to go to Emoji Copy, and let me just do it right this time. Open up a new tab and we'll move it over here. And so I want to use a clock. So you can search for clocks if you want. And it gives you all these different kinds. So you could just click on one and say copy. And then when you go to your HyperDoc, you can paste it in there. And it pastes in just like so. And then, time to complete. And then what I'm going to do with the text piece of this is I'm going to make it really, really small, like 8 point. Okay. And then I'm going to scooch it over just until it can stay on 1 line and not go onto 2 lines. So you just need to kind of scooch it over for each one of these. Okay. This needs to be centered. So we'll click in there and choose a centering tool. Okay. Then these 2 cells down here, again, if we're looking at the example, those are merged. Okay. So then we can click and hold and drag those 2. And again, right click and go merge. Okay, and now we've got 1 cell in there. And so remember that the discover or the read and watch, I'm just going to type this in. This is, oopsie, how come that's not typing? There we go. This is like doing a Google search for something new. Okay, so for example, pick anything. I want to know how to fix the taps in my bathroom sink. Right, so you go into YouTube and you go into Google search. You go, how do you fix? Pick a brand, Moen. How do you fix Moen taps to stop them from dripping? Let's say, and then of course, you visit a whole bunch of sites to see what people have to say. Are there videos? Are there pictures? What kind of tutorials are there? Okay, now how many items you put in here is dependent completely on grade, and so. And that is all in Google Classroom under the time to watch. And I'll just show you here in Google Classroom. I'm not sure if I've got one open here. Let me close a couple of tabs first. Okay, and so we don't have all these stuff. So let me just move over our class here. So in the HyperDoc assignment, right there. Okay, there are all kinds of resources that I've added in here for you, and a couple that are important are times for instruction. Okay, and so that means that gives you, based on the age of the student, that gives you the time to complete. Okay, so we use this sort of as a universal. I know that they vary from school to school and all over the place, but just so that we're all on the same page, quite literally, we'll use these ones for how long you can teach your or how long your HyperDoc can be. And so the general rule then is this, that if you've got, let's say, 30 minutes in class to teach the lesson on whatever it is that you're going to teach it on, your HyperDoc shouldn't be more than 30 minutes. That's not fair, right? To send that home, the HyperDoc, and give kids 3 hours of homework doing your HyperDoc. Okay, so that's a general rule. I mean, you could do whatever you want when you're in your own classroom. If you want to make them 10 hours long, go ahead. But I don't think it's fair to ask them to do more minutes of homework than you would have had in the classroom, right? So in here, this is students doing their own work, right? But you are giving them 3 to 5, and for grade 1s, like 1 link to check out and discover something about a new topic. Okay, so again, discover and watch is just like you doing an internet search on something you don't know about, and scoping out a whole bunch of different sites to try and learn a little bit about it. Okay, at least on the surface. Okay, because when we initially do a Google search, we don't do a deep dive into the content. We click the first few links that come up in the search, and we see if that's good, and then maybe we refine our search or those kinds of things, right? Okay, so all of this text that is in here is just for an example, and you might want to add it in yours so that 6 months from now, a year from now, if you're making one of these, you don't forget what you're supposed to do in there. But what you'll be handing in to me will be a blank HyperDoc template, kind of like what this one will look like when we're done. Okay, so now basically we're doing like you do when you shampoo your hair. We're doing a rinse and repeat. So for the next one, it's exactly the same. Now, I know that we could copy and paste it. I know that I could copy it and paste it and then do the changes, but let's practice that table one more time. So let's go. So make sure that your insertion point is right here. Okay. Then we're going to go insert another table. And again, remember it was 3 by 2. Okay. And this one is going to be our learn. So this is where we're going to take a deeper dive, right? So now I want to learn how to fix those taps, or I want to, I've got this recipe, or I want to know how to, I don't know, install a security cam in my house or whatever it is. Now we're going to learn a little bit more. And so you can see here, we're digging a little deeper. And then usually what happens in here, there's something to do. Up here, they're just viewing, reading, looking at pictures, looking at text. It could be a PDF, it could be an image, it could be a movie, it could be anything. And though all of those things could be the same down here, the same types of things, but there is, generally speaking, the difference that there's something for them to do. Okay? All right. So let's do this again. So we're just going to move this over, and we'll just kind of eyeball it so that those lines are even, and I can see that mine are not quite. Okay. Yeah, well, I might not get it exact. Okay, that's pretty close. Okay, so remember what we did? We highlighted both of those, and then we right-clicked, and we said merge cells. Okay. Now, when you're working in a spreadsheet and you want to merge cells, there's actually a button up here to do that. That's why I keep moving my mouse up there, because I keep trying to do the same thing over and over again, and I can't do it. So about same thing, eyeballing this line. Now, we can just copy and do this. We need to go to emoji copy every single time and do that. So we can go time to complete there. Remember, this is learn. So learn, and then in brackets, we said dig deeper and do. Okay, so this is something for them to do. This is 18 cabin bold. All right, so we're going to center it. We're going to highlight it so that we can go 18 cabin bold. There we go. And then remember down here, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight both by click, hold, and drag, right click, merge cells, so that we have typing room down here. Now, if you look on my example, it says add content, things to do. I don't know why this is so small. Let's make it bigger. There we go. Things to do. Here that you want your students to learn from. So again, how many? Between 1 and about 5 items. And of course, you can plus or minus those as you see fit for your students to dig a little bit deeper into the topic. So, up here, this was, in my example, this was just some sites that they could go to. They could, read something here about the brain. Here, they could watch a video about the brain. But down here, there's actually more information, but there's actually something for them to do. Okay? So we've got that done. And then our not our last one, but our kind of last easy one is the same idea. Now, as far as pictures go, let me just grab my picture from there. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Now, one of the other questions I get from students all the time is, well, Brad, how do you center that? Well, first of all, I know I can center it this way, but how do you center it kind of like top to bottom in that cell or in this box? And the only way you can do it is, and now it does look centered now, but is just by hitting the enter key or the backspace key and centering it, just kind of eyeballing it to see how you want it centered. Okay, so I'm not going to put anything in there. Okay, but we're going to do another one. And the next one is exactly the same. And I'm just going to do it the same way. Insert a table, 3 by 2. I'm going to move that line over. I'm going to highlight those two, right click and go merge cells. I'm going to highlight these two, right click and go merge cells. We already know that this is time to complete, so I'm going to paste that. Oopsie, my bad, I thought I had that one there. We'll copy that, we'll paste that in, and then this one is a self-assess, right? So I'm just going to copy that this time so that I don't have to type it out. Okay, all right, and we'll just center that this way. Now, one thing I'd like you to notice on my example right here is that whenever you're adding something, whether it be a worksheet or a quiz or something that kids have to do, like an activity, my rule basically is this, is that, and you can read this if you want, if you can find it on the web and you can use it in your HyperDoc lesson plan, wherever it is, then go ahead and use it. And then all you got to do is, and not even using really APA format, is just go, okay, this image right here or whatever I took, the source is colon, and then put the URL. So copy and paste the URL in there. Okay, so that's, of course, is without the quotation marks. Okay, all right. So here I am going to put this in here, and I'll just explain a little bit. So I'm going to paste this in here. So you need to ask these questions in your HyperDoc. So kids have watched and read some stuff. Now here they have, watched, read, done kind of stuff. So now you're assuming that they're ready to see if they actually learned anything, right? So under self-assess, we're going to say, how much did you learn? Okay. Do you think you've got it nailed? Let's find out. So they can take a quiz, they can do an activity, they can play a game. You choose whichever one or ones, maximum 2. You can see that right here. Okay. And again, dependent on grade and age and all that jazz. And then you can essentially take the quiz and you can give them a link, or try this activity, give the link, or play this game, like maybe a Kahoot, and give them the link. Okay. And that is all to show how much they've learned. Now, one of the other things it says on here, or doesn't, right here. So I'll leave a little space, but I'm going to copy this because, again, this is text we want students to read. So I'm just going to go in here and go enter a couple times, maybe 3. I'm going to paste that in there. And then the question now that we're asking after they've taken the quiz or done this activity or played this game is, did you do as well as you thought you would? If not, go back to the Discover and Learn sections and take the quiz again. And then here, you must achieve 100% as a grade. If not, comma here. So if sick here. So I'm going to do it this way. You must achieve 100% grade to consider yourself done. Okay, now this percentage is based on your own personal beliefs, values, all that jazz. It could be 50%, 60, 70, you pick whatever, 89, whatever. You pick your number. For me, and they can do it as many times as they want. So you must achieve 100% grade to consider yourself done. You can redo this as many times as you like. Okay. Now I always explain that in face-to-face, and so I'm going to copy that, and I am going to throw it right here. Okay. Just remember that this number is Brad's number. It could be yours as well, but you decide what grade it is that's we're going to classify as a passing grade. Okay. All right. Let me just grab my little guy here. Copy him, and I'll paste him in there. So this will be a good example of that enter thing, right? So this is a bit of a taller box from top to bottom. So I want my little icon, my little image there to be in the middle from this top line to this bottom line. The only way to do that literally is to hit enter, enter, enter. And then you can decide, about where it is. And depending on how much stuff you put in each one of these boxes, you might have to adjust these images as well. Okay. All right. The next table is a bit more complicated. So we're going to do a 3x2 table. The second hole in here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we can delete some rows if we need to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click, make sure, again, our insertion point is here. we're going to go insert a table, and I'm going to go 3 by 5. I can never remember this from term to term, so we'll just go with it. Okay, so again, same idea right here. We're going to eyeball that. We're going to grab all of them, right-click them, and merge. Okay, so we know what we did up here, so this has got to be moved over so that it lines up roughly with that. I can copy this and put in my time to complete in there. This, of course, will be the show what you know. And this is just my own little note to self is, are they differentiated? Are you giving your students multiple ways to show you what they know? Okay. And sometimes you have one thing, sometimes you have 2, 3, you could even have more than 3. I usually have, around 3. In this course, some of the things only require 1 because I'm looking for a specific skill. So that's why I don't give you the option sometimes to say, let's say, do it in a Google Doc or a Google Drawing or a slideshow. So sometimes I just want a specific thing because I need you to show me that you can demonstrate that skill. All right, I'm going to grab my pink panther here, throw it in there. I'm not going to move it around yet because we got some other things that we've got to add. So I've chosen doors here, kind of thinking of like The Price is Right, door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. So you can use any metaphor you want: balloons, flowers, donkeys, unicorns. I've in the past used red hot chili peppers, right? 1 pepper, 2 pepper, 3 peppers. You decide what you want to use. And again, it might be grade determined by what grade you're teaching, because obviously maybe if you're teaching younger grades, you want it to be a little bit more cutie. And if you're teaching older grades, maybe not so cutie. But who knows? I don't know. It's up to you. Okay. So here on mine, I've got these. And I am literally now I'm going to merge the first row. Okay. And I'm just going to go here and go click on a door for an activity. Okay. And in my example, I'm just going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm not making any fancy arrows. And then I'm going to go to the beginning and go 1 space, backspace here, and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then put my arrowhead on the other end. Okay. Then I'm going to center that. Okay. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make room for these doors. Okay. And again, I just copied them directly from the internet. And for that kind of stuff, I don't need to add a source. Okay. Unless you're going to try and tell me you drew these yourself or something like that, then we might have to question where they came from. But same thing with the Pink Panther. I'm not putting a source down. Everybody knows the Pink Panther is not mine. So anyways, all right. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these ones. Okay. And then this is where it gets just a little bit more complicated in the process. Is now I'm going to insert a 3 by 3 table. Okay. So there's going to be a table within a table. So first of all, I'm just going to center, and then I'm going to go insert a table, and it's going to be 3 by 3. Okay. So you see this table inside a table. And of course, on my example, you can't see the lines. I'll show you how to get rid of those lines in a bit. Okay. So now, just going back to my example here, I am just literally going to just copy and paste all of these. Okay. And then I guess I'll have to center them in a second, but I'm just going to copy them. Okay. And again, remember, you can use whatever kind of metaphor thing that you want. Okay. And okay. So I'm just going to center those so that they're in the middle. Perfect. Okay. And then down below here, I found these on the web too, and I'm just going to copy these. Again, you could use chili peppers. You could use any kind of scale you want. You could use, happy faces, to whatever, 1 happy face, 2, 3, whatever. It's up to you. Of course, the question that you might get from either a classmate, or maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, what if a student just always picks the easy route? Well, then you could tell them that they're not allowed to. Okay. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say we're doing some kind of a book story related thing. The easy could be a word search. Let's do this. Easy could be write me 3 sentences about the story. door number 2 here could be write me a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. Let's say this is 1 paragraph, this is 2 paragraphs, and then this is write me a full page, right? Book report or whatever you want to call it. All right. So it's easy, medium, hard. And like I said, there are times where you may or may not, have 3 things. Okay. Now down below here, one of the other things that may be a determiner in what your students choose to do is based on time, right? Now, the other thing you can do that if you haven't thought about this yet is you can create, if there's 3 doors, you could create 3 copies of this HyperDoc and give your high achievers a copy that only has the hard door on it, or it could be 3 harder things, or so you could adjust this for dependent on your students, right? So again, you got to be kind of mindful of where your kids are at and what they're capable of, right? Okay, now time to complete. I've got in this. So this is just a little note to self, which I'm not going to add in this template that I'm making for you, but this is equivalent to homework. Okay, so but homework that's not done at home, and I'll explain more when we talk about flipped classrooms. This homework then, so kids do these first 3 steps: discover, learn, and self-assess. They do those at home. And then they come to class and they work on their projects or whatever it is that they're doing with the teacher. And if you think about the dynamic of that, if we talk about traditional, it's teacher goes, well, yap. Here's a couple practice questions. All right, see you tomorrow. Do page 39 for homework, whatever, right? Or do these things that I've handed out for homework. Of course, students get home and they're like, I have no idea what to do, right? So here you give them the background, the information. This is the content, right? If you were lecturing, this is what you would do. You would do this one and this one. And at some point, you would have a self-assessment to see if they're ready to move on, or you have to reteach or something like that. Okay. And then, of course, if this is, again, a traditional classroom and you're standing up front lecturing or giving your lesson, then you would say, okay, here, you get this assignment, you get this assignment, the other person gets a different assignment, and you have till next Thursday to get them done. Well, when we use this document, again, what happens is students do the discover, learn, and self-assess at home. They come ready to do their homework, and I'm making air quotes in the air right now. But here's the difference, is they get to do this homework with their teacher. So they're not doing homework at home with their parents or their friends or whoever. They have access to the teacher. And of course, this is optimal because we all know that some students will just run with it. Some students will have a problem with it. And your average middle students will, have some questions. So what's nice about this is I can focus on different groups of students and give them, or students, and give them the amount of help that they need. Okay. All right. So you'll be required to put a footer in. And this last box or row we don't need. So I'm going to right-click it. I've highlighted, of course. I'm going to right-click it and say delete row. Okay. Now there is a little space here. You cannot get rid of it. Why won't it let me delete my row? There we go. All right. And so there's not much you can do about that. Okay. Even if you hit your backspace button. One thing you can do, though, is you could highlight that little spot and just make it a much smaller if you want like font. And I'll do the same thing here. I'll make this one a 6 as well. There we go. It just tightens things up. Okay, now, how do we get rid of these lines? Well, let's highlight the whole thing. Okay, let's right-click it and say Table Properties. Okay, and then what we're going to do over here, there's a few things that we can do. So we got row, we've got columns, we've got alignment, and we've got color. Right? So down here, actually, let me just move that up a little bit, because we don't really need this one's open. Color is black, and it's a 1-point thickness of the line. All you got to do is change that to 0, and the lines disappear. Okay? And same thing here. If you want to do that, I think we can do the same thing here. Let me just highlight that. Let's just see if I make that 0. Oh, that's too much. Okay, I think I'll just leave it like that. All right, I'm not going to play with it too much. Now I can close this up when I don't need it anymore. And then, I was going to do a footer. Right. So down here, we need to double click and we need to add a footer. So put your name in there, put your teacher name if you want. I'm just going to put Mr. D. Okay. And I'm going to make that smaller because it doesn't need to be that big. I'll make it 8. You can choose whatever font you want. I'll just use Lifesavers. It's my favorite. And then what I'm going to do is put a space after my name, and I'm going to go Insert Page Number. Okay, and there is no really fancy way to get it over here. Even though in the picture, when we said Insert a Page Number, it showed us it was in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't know why they do that. Anyways, easiest, peasiest way to do that is just get your insertion point in front of the page number, and I'm just going to tab it over until it goes on to the next line. Then I'll just backspace once, and it is now in the right spot, okay, or where I'd like it. And you can put it anywhere you want as long as it's there, okay? All right. All right, and then we've got lesson outcomes and lesson objectives to do. And so this table is, as you can see, it is a two column table and a 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Okay, so we're going to add that table. It will go on to the next page. That's okay. This could be a multi-page document. So we're going to go insert a table again. And creepers, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. All right, I got a good mind. It's just a very short memory. 2 by 4. Okay. All right, so I don't want it hanging over like that. So I'm just going to go Command Enter or Control Enter, and it'll move that onto the next line. Oops, don't want it that close, but I'm going to just make that a little tighter by making it go 8 point. Okay, so as you saw in the example, again, we'll try to eyeball this a little bit. We have one image for all 4 rows. So I stole this one off Albert Ad's website. So I'm just going to paste it in there right after I merge these. Okay, and I'll worry about centering it after. And then what we had here is we had lesson outcomes. Okay. And then we have lesson objectives, and I'll just going to paste that again. And I'll just go objectives. Okay, and I'm going to center both of those. And whether you center them or how you justify these doesn't matter to me. As long as you keep it, to me, I think as long as you keep it uniform throughout. Okay, and then here, of course, at this point, you should know that outcomes come from the programs of study. And remember, I like to have them cited in this way. Okay, and then objectives is about how the teacher, how you're going to reach this outcome. Okay, and in here, this SLL3, it comes from that. Okay, from this page B31 in the grade 6 curriculum. Okay, and so really what we have left then is just to, what I always tease and make fun of, is just to make it pretty. Okay, so what we're going to do here is one of the things that I'll introduce you to in this assignment is complementary colors. So I'd like you to use complementary colors for the headers that are colored here in my example. Okay, now when we talk about complementary colors, what I'm talking about here, I'll just go to the top. So I want this one with a color. Okay, is once you're in this cell or this box, you can go to the paint can and choose your colors. Now, complementary colors go like this on this palette, right? All of these, every row, these are all complementary colors. Every single row complements the other. And then if you go every column from top to bottom, now there are some, this top rows, don't count that one, of course. But from here, these are all green, complementary greens, and these are all complementary reds, yellows. You can see what we've got. So again, it's either by row or by column to choose your complementary colors. And of course, the other thing you need to think about is contrast. If you're going to choose a darker one, then what you might want to do is it's either dark on light or light on dark. So if you choose a darker background, you might want to choose a lighter font. Okay, in it, as a matter of fact, if you don't, then I'll deduct marks. Okay, now I'm just remembering this is the third row from the bottom. Okay, so that when I come in here, third row from the bottom is I can go orange. I think I'll go with white on that one as well. Okay, and then the next one over again, third from the bottom, is yellow, and probably make that white as well. We'll put stand out enough. Okay, and right here, show what you know. I'll go all the way up to, oh, I don't need to highlight this one, sorry. And then I was on yellow, I'll go with green. And of course I can go with yellow again. I'm just going to leave the differentiated out just because it needs to be blue to show that's a hyperlink. And in this piece here, are they differentiated, is only for like my own reminder. You don't have to add that in your template. Okay. All right. If I scooch on down here, and I'm not sure if I'm copying the same colors, because I can just keep going with the colors. So if I used green last time, I can come here, go to paint can, and I can choose, blue. And again, I'll make that white text. And then the last one that needs to be in color is, I made it blue, I'll make this one purple. And white will work better with that again. Okay, so that basically is a completed HyperDoc template. Now, of course, when you go to do this as a finished HyperDoc, you will need to add your own materials and things and links in there. One of the other things you can see is that each one of my doors here has a blue line around it. Okay, I added that in after. So I'll just show you how I'll undo what I did there. And I'll show you what I did. Just to indicate that it's a hyperlink, I put a blue border around it. So all I did here is click the image, go to the line tool up here, and you choose, you could choose any color you want, really, but blue is probably the best color to choose. You can choose the thickness, right? Obviously, some thicknesses are better than others, okay? And of course, if you want, you can choose whether they're dotted or dashed, or if you want them to be a solid line, okay? And then, of course, those are hyperlinks. So if, let's say I wanted to hyperlink this, let me just grab the link off of Apple's website. I'll just go copy that, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it, and I'm going to go to the link button, and it's going to say, well, what link? I'm going to paste in that link that I put in there and say apply. So and that, of course, would link to an assignment, whether it be a website or one you've made. It's going to link to something. And then so when students click it, it'll take them out to whatever URL that you've added into these things. Okay. Anyways, I think that's just about it. If you have any questions, let me know. And of course, through Remind or via email, and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay. Thanks, everybody.